Alright, today we are going to set up and do our DIY laser alignment for our car because we got a little bit of problem with one of the tires. Looks like it's feathering on one side, so I'm wondering if my alignment's off. It's been about a year since I've checked the alignment. So I thought I'd make a quick video on how to do laser alignment at home using two of these torpedo lasers that you can get at the big box hardware store, and setting it up on some rotating plates. As you can see, I got it sitting in the lift bay, but you can't use the lift for this. You have to actually have the suspension down under load, and so you have to set it up on blocks. So I got some, there's my dog, old Bailey. So I got it up on some just wooden blocks, and they're longer than the wheels. So what it does is allows you to set it down on the block, and then you can push the car back and forth to make sure that you got your suspension seating. Because when you pick a car up, the front wheels, especially the back wheels somewhat, they tend to pull down out of their normal running position. So you have to roll the car back and forth to kind of make sure everything lines back up so you don't have any bind. The other most important thing that you need to do in alignment is you need some Lazy Susans like these. They sit underneath the wheel, and what it does is it allows the tire to rotate real easy. Now this one's just some homemade ones that I had, and if you want to see how to make them, all they are is two plates of metal, and then you go steal some BBs from somebody's BB gun at the house that you won't say whose it was, or you go buy some of those little BBs for a BB gun and you put them in between, and then when you put the two plates on with just a stud in the center, I don't know if you can see the little stud there, but there's a hole in the middle, and that hole lines up to a post in the middle, and what it does is allows it to rotate on that post, and then the little BBs make it rotate easy. If you don't have something like that, you're not going to be able to get a good alignment doing it yourself, because there's too much friction between the wheel and the whatever is sitting on, the boards in this case. So what we're going to do now, we got it all set up. All we need to do is attach the lasers to the wheels, and so we'll show that in a little bit how to do that. But first we got to get the car in position on top of the Lazy Susans so we can turn the wheels back and forth real easy. So we'll get the car pushed back, and then we'll be ready to look at how to mount the lasers up on the wheels. So now we got our car pushed back, just kind of ran it back and forth a little bit to make sure that the suspension had settled, and we got it sitting on top of the Lazy Susans, so now it'll turn real easy. And we got a couple little blocks in the back just to make sure it isn't going to fall off, because we don't want the car to fall off anything. So the next thing to do is make sure that your steering wheel is sitting center. And so I've already adjusted mine, because now it's real easy to turn. So make sure your steering wheel is sitting on center, because that's going to be where you want your alignment to give your steering wheel a top position. So we should be all set up. So now we're going to set up the lasers and get the lasers in position. And then the next step of doing that before we can start checking the alignment is to find the center of the vehicle, because with a rear wheel drive vehicle with a fixed axle, you know, like a pickup truck, you don't have to do this part. You can just take the lasers and put them on the back wheels, and that's going to establish how straight the vehicle goes down the road. But for cars that have independent suspensions, the rears can also be out of alignment, so you don't really want to use your rear to indicate what the front, so you might go down the road like a crab. So we'll set up and show how to get the car center established, and then all we need to do is just line up the lasers to measure off of that front and back, and we'll make sure that we got everything in alignment. For the next part of the setup, you want to establish the center we were talking about. And so to do that, what you want to do is find the center of the car in the front and the back. So one of the easiest things to do is just use the emblems. So I just run a string, a little tiny like sewing thread down, and put a washer on the bottom of it. And I'll show you in a minute what that's going to do. Oh, and here's the setup for the lasers to hook to the wheels. All you need, since they have magnetic bases, is you need to hook them up to the rim, making sure that you have something to protect your rim, little pieces of tape on the end. And then we'll clip the lasers to those here in just a minute. But as far as doing the center line of the car, what you want to do is hang the string. So we got a string hanging down and it comes right down to the bottom. And then you take one of your lasers and set it up behind the car. And what you're trying to do is establish at what point on the wall is the center of the car. So by doing this, you use the laser, and what you want to do is make the laser hit the string, and then way underneath the car, it hits the other string, and then it hits the wall. And what that does is gives you the center point of the center of the car and an indication on the wall. So what we have now with it lined up, we have the marker showing on the wall, that's the center of the car, and we also have it coming down, hitting this line, and you can see the laser going under the car, hits this line, hits the line in the back, and translates to a point on the wall. That point on the wall is going to be the center of the car. So what we'll do is, when we set the lasers up on the wheels, we're going to measure off of that dot to see if we're on center. That's going to tell us with our steering wheel straight whether or not our car is lined up to center. But that's not going to tell us whether our toe is right. What we got to do is mark this spot on the wall, turn the laser around, bring it up to the front, and then shoot a line on the back wall, and that's going to give us a back mark. And then what we'll do is flip the lasers back and forth and make sure that the distance from the dots on the walls to the laser marks are equal front and back. That's going to tell us whether or not our toe is straight. So we'll set up the laser on the front and do the very same thing, but we'll take a piece of tape, mark this location on the wall that the laser's hitting, and that'll be our front position. Okay, so now we're set up in the front. What we did, we got our mark on the wall. That's where, when we had the laser in the back, we were able to find the center on the front. Now we set our laser up here and we shoot the string toward the back, and then we shoot through this string. You see it hitting the string, and then it goes to a point on the wall. So we got the walls marked. So this basically establishes 2 points on the walls that equal to the points on the center of the car. So now all we're going to do is set the lasers up, and then we're going to measure off of those distances to see just how straight we are. So we got everything set up. The lasers are on. In case you're wondering how that I mounted them up, those little metal things are actually temporary signs that they have out beside the road. And they come in quite handy for little bitty pieces of metal that are for free. And you can just go pick one of those up at your local Sonic or one of those stores. You can ask them if you want to. They'll probably give it to you. And then you can just cut them up and use those, because they work really good to hold the bungees, or in my case it's like that rubber real thin material that stretches. It's kind of like a silicone or something. It works out well to hold them on. But we got the lasers mounted, and so you can see I've set my laser to where it's horizontal, and so I know I'm horizontal, and then I have the little diffuser on there that makes the line go up the wall. So assuming, like for me, I have flat concrete working in my garage, this is a good indication of not only when we set the toe, but we can also check to make sure that our camber's right. And so what I'm having, let me just show you what I've run into, is over on my driver's side wheel, this wheel's doing good. So my wear pattern is pretty good all the way across. I got a little bit of feathering on the inside of that one, but not too bad. But what I'm running into is over on my driver's side, if you can see, I'm losing my tread on the inside of the tire, and it's also feathering really, really bad. So we got the camera set up. So now what we're going to do is measure for our toe. So since we have the lasers in the front and we have the center of our car defined, all we need to do is measure from the marks on the wall, and that's going to tell us how far off we are. So we just take the tape measure, put it to there, and we see we're reading 37 inches to that line. Now the center we might not have super exact doing the lasers, but we want to make sure that front to back it's the same. So this side was reading 37. This side is reading 38. So there's an inch difference from the center line we established on the car to where the lasers are marked. So this side is 37 and the other side is 38. So we'll just take a marker and we're going to write that on the tape on the wall. That way we can remember. Because what we got to do now is go to the back and see how much difference we have in the back. So this side is 37 inches. This side is 38. Now if you wanted to, you could take a piece of tape just to make sure that you set your lasers back. And just tape right there and then mark the line. And it's going to tell you where that line was measuring. And we'll have the references when we switch to lasers. We'll be able to tell where the lasers were to know when we switch it back that we get them in the same position. Now we got it set up. So what we'll do is switch the lasers to the back and we're going to measure and see if we're 37 on the back and 38 on the back. Then that's going to tell us that we really didn't do a good job of finding the center of the car. And it's less of about needing an adjustment and more of about us just not finding the center good. So I'll flip the laser around and that's going to point to the back. We'll switch around and do the other laser, and then we'll measure up. So now we have both lasers in and we're going to measure this side. And just for reference, I'll bring it back up here and show you that all we did was left the laser on the front wheel, but we just reversed the direction of it. So now it's pointing towards the back of the car. And then we're going to measure back in the back of the car. Alright, so for the back of the car, this side, the front side on this one was 37. So here, the front side is the back side is 37.5 inches. So that tells us something's up. They're not quite sitting right. 37.5 inches. This one over here is measuring 37 1/8. So that tells us that our toe is off. 37 1/8. Okay. You may have seen the laser move. I actually moved the steering wheel just a hair. So let's measure it up again and see. So now we're reading 36.5 versus 37.5. So let's just go ahead and change it. 36.5. This side's measuring 38. So this one's on 38 now. Just by that little bitty adjustment of the steering wheel, we're going to have to go back and redo the fronts and see how far they are off. And I have these marks. That was the original mark. So I have to turn the laser back around. And most likely we're going to see that it's moved off the mark. So you can see just that slight adjustment of the steering wheel. Now our laser is off mark. So our new mark is showing now. We are at 37.5. So we moved it a little over a half inch. So 37.5. This side is now 37.5. instead of 36 is 37.5. So that everything lines up now that our camera is centered. So maybe I don't have a camera problem. Maybe my steering wheel just wasn't centered. So let's get those back on the marks. Okay, so with everything lined up, let's get the camera and walk around. So this side is at 37.5. Its counterpart is at 36.5. This side's at 38. This side's at 37.5. So the driver's side is pretty close. We need to do just a little bit of adjustment on it. The passenger side is out an inch across that distance. And since my laser has further distance to travel here to the back, that one's going to be more sensitive. So the further off it is, the further that's going to move. So at the end of the day, we want those numbers to be really close to equal. If the laser is here and it only has to shoot to the wall here, you're not going to have near as much offset per the angle. So this one is really probably further off than that one is. But at the end of the day, it's still off a little. So we're going to make an adjustment and try to set these back in. So what I want to do is start with the one that's closest to me. So I'll flip the lasers back around front, and then we're going to make the adjustments. Okay, so to adjust your toe, I'll just show you real quick. Most people know it, but it's the same for most cars. All we're going to do is loosen that nut, and then we're going to adjust this bolt, tightening or loosening, to get the toe put in. So I'm going to set the camera over, and you can watch the laser move as I make the adjustment. So we'll get the camera set up over here, and you can watch it move, because what I have over here is I'm 37.5 inches from center. I'm 36.5 inches from center on that side. So this one has to go toward the car. So it needs to go in that direction and try to make that number smaller. I'm going to shoot for about, let's say 37, and then see if I went too far. So I'm going to move that line. When I move the wheel, it's going to move that line. I'm going to move it about a ½ inch. And then we're going to check front to back again. The other thing, the good news is the other laser I can watch. So if I move the steering wheel accidentally, I'm going to be able to see it on the other laser. So we'll stop there. Kind of see where it is. My other laser is still sitting in position, so my steering wheel should still be in position. So let's measure front and back better. Alright, so let's see where we are now. So we're going to measure up. We are at 37 and about 3/8 right now. So we'll flip the laser to the back, and we're going to measure up the back. The back is now measuring 37. We're getting closer. We just got to move it just a little further, and then we'll have the same number on both ends. Let's set our laser back up, being sure we hit our 0. And we're going to move it just a hair more. We'll go ahead and move our reference tape. Now this time we're measuring 37 and just a little under 3/8. Let's flip it back this way. Set our 0. And back we're measuring 37 and just under 3/8. So that one's lined up pretty good. And we can also check to make sure our steering wheel didn't move, because we haven't done anything to this side. So this one is still sitting on its dock. So we did good. We didn't move the steering wheel, and we got our new alignment set up over on this side. So we had to move it quite a bit to get it to come in. So now we look like this, and because our steering wheel is on center now, we have that amount of camber. And so we're hoping that that amount of camber, which is about, up on my 4-foot scale there, it's about 1.5 inches at the top of the 4-foot scale. Over here, we'll measure this side, and we're about the same. We're about 1.5 inches on our 4-foot scale. So what I thought at the beginning was a camber issue, turns out it was the position of the steering wheel, which is a toe issue. So by adjusting the toe, I can reset the camber into the position where it should run down the road right. All right, so this one's adjusted. So now what we're gonna do is move this tape so that we have our reference again, just in case we move the steering wheel. So we're gonna set this one back because we know we're in position now. We're measuring 37 and a little under 3/8 on the front, 37, a little under 3/8 on the back. So now we're gonna go to the other side after we snug up the bolts, and we're gonna set up for this one. So we got our alignment done, and everything tracks good. Took it down the road to see, and feels great. Steering wheel is nice and straight, so it looks like we'll see if that straightens out our problems with our feathering on our driver's side tire, and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching.